Hey guys, Ben here from Adelaide Electrical. Today we want to talk about switchboards again. The reason why it's super important is because we can still come across every week we have a really old switchboard that has been sitting there for a long period of time. When I talk about long period of time, it's 30, 40, 50, even 60 years. So this one here, as you can see, it's an old board that we have recently pulled out. A good indicator of age is, for example, the old asbestos panel that was very common in the old days. A sort of a fire retardant material that didn't catch on fire. So that was super important that the switchboard doesn't catch on fire. A lot of times on these old, what we call ceramic fuses, again, if you zoom in, you see those marks, those arc burn flashes and stuff like that, is a contributor basically because of loose connections inside the fuse. These were sort of the more or less first generation of a circuit breaker, or what we call a fuse. If something overloads, this tiny wire that's built in here basically burns out. It opens the circuit, it protects the wiring from overloading and put any stress to that. Why is it important to talk about this? Because a lot of people don't really care about the switchboard for as long it's been working until something does happen, the power cuts out, they're not sure how to reset it or what to do. That means an electrician has to come out. And so for this instance, it was obviously discussed with the customer as to why it was urgent to do something about it, simply because you can see it is just the old ceramic fuses. It didn't have a safety switch, but in some instances a safety switch were then retrofitted in a later date, so they kept the original and just added the feature in. Good explanation to that is, let's say you have a 50-year-old car. Back in the days there was no airbags. You were lucky if you had a seatbelt in the car as a safety measure. But then airbags came onto the market, and then you decided to take your old car back to the mechanic and say, can you put an airbag in there? It doesn't work that way. However, in the electrical world it does. So this is the airbag, let's call it, or safety switch in the electrical circuit, and that came in after, and they're just wired into the existing circuit. Good add-on feature, a smart move to do, to have some extra protection on there, but we're still obviously left behind with all this other stuff here. So moving forward, we're now 2023. A lot of regulation have changed, and we have improved the safety of using the electrical circuits or the switchboards. So now it's mandatory that we make sure any new installations are also protected not just by a circuit breaker, also with a safety switch. The common things that when an electrician gets called out on a board like this is because one of those fuses, like I showed you before, are actually blown because overloading the circuit. Or when you look at the back of the panel or spin it over, on many occasions we also found that the wires that you don't see on behind the panel are starting to burn back, and it's showing signs of the plastic or the insulation is getting warm and it just melts away. So you imagine wires are touching with each other, and then they start to obviously get hot, and it could short out, cause more dramas. In worst case scenario, catching on fire, and can be very severe. The important things with those is that those switchboards, whether it's old or new, needs to be regularly checked. Moving forward,